Hello everybody, Heroes of the Storm is getting its first major content patch since the release of the game, and it's going to be kicking off an awesome event called the Eternal Conflict. Basically, it's a giant Diablo-themed event where we're getting a ton of Diablo-themed content for Heroes of the Storm. So we're going to take a look at a few of the cool little things coming in this patch. Some of them just quality of life changes, other of them, they're content. Otherwise, we're gonna kind of leave out all of the balance stuff, because there's a lot of balance stuff, and when the patch does hit, I would suggest reading the patch notes if you're interested in that kind of thing. So the first and biggest piece of content coming in this patch is the new Battleground. It is Diablo themed, of course, as you would expect, and on the left side of the map, when you spawn in, it is all of the high heavens that you see in Diablo 3, and on the right side, it's the corrupted high heavens. So depending on what side you spawn on, you'll be fighting for that side of the Eternal Conflict, whether you're, fighting for the demons or the angels, and that will obviously switch every time you load into the map. But this map is a 2-lane map, which hasn't happened since the Haunted Mines released, and it's broken into the top and the bottom, and in between the 2 lanes is just this massive no man's land in the middle of the map that will have the objective that spawns there. Speaking of the objective, it will spawn 2 immortals, 1 angel and 1 demon. So depending on what side you spawn on the battleground, you will be fighting either one of those. So if you spawn on the left side of the map, you'll be fighting the demon. If you spawn on the right side, you'll be fighting the angel. You could either defend your immortal or just go attack the enemy's immortal, but they may be trying to defend it. So sometimes you'll be able to get a good, pick here and there and be able to kill off one of the enemy teams, so they may not be able to do as much damage, or other times you'll just be able to flat out damage the enemy team, and you may just go straight for their immortal. But either way, the one that's left standing, so the first one to die is out, and the one that's left standing goes into whichever lane and pushes the enemy base. Now, it does change, so, if your immortal goes to the top lane first, it'll then go to the bottom, and then the next time you get it, it'll get back to the top lane, and then the next time it'll go back to the bottom, just back and forth all the way until the game ends. It's got a cool little mechanic there. It's got a ranged attack that it does that depletes its shield, so it gets a shield based on how much life it had left when it won. And then as it's depleting its shield with its ranged attack, it'll eventually go into melee mode when the shield is gone and just go up and start smacking things. You can think of it as like a beefed up version of the Grave Golem from Haunted Mines. You still have siege camps and bruiser camps, but they're a bit different. The siege camps are a group of Khazra little warrior dudes. Instead of having 2 major siege guys, there's 3 of them. They do a lot of damage to buildings, but they no longer do splash damage like the siege giants do. Plus there's 3 of them, so they'll focus down buildings pretty quickly, just as you would imagine from the normal siege camps. Then you have the bruiser camps, which is a shaman that is resurrecting 2 dogs. So if you're trying to defeat the group, I would suggest killing the shaman first, otherwise it's just going to keep bringing back the dogs. That's a little tip when they're pushing on your base, so that way you're not like, why do these dogs keep coming back? Just kill the shaman, it makes it a lot easier. At the end, once you've won and blown up the enemy's core, a ton of loot pops out. It doesn't really do anything, it's just aesthetic, but it definitely makes you feel like you're within the Diablo universe. So the next major piece of content coming out is, in fact, the hero of the Butcher from Diablo. In fact, there's been a few heroes announced for this event. It will run for, a couple months at least, and they'll be releasing heroes throughout that time. So the first one that's coming in this patch is the Butcher, and then we have the Skeleton King, or King Leoric, depending on what you want to call him. And then finally, we're going to be getting a male monk, and he will be the support, which is really cool because Diablo currently doesn't have a support in the Heroes of the Storm universe. We don't know if there's going to be any other heroes released at this time, but those are the ones that have been officially announced. But let's talk about the Butcher because he's the one that's coming up the soonest. Well, he is a melee assassin, and every time you kill an enemy, it drops little piles of meat, and if you pick up that meat, you get a permanent bonus to your attack damage. So he should get pretty steamrolly throughout a game if you're good with him. He's also seems to be pretty good at controlling people through one of his 2 ultimates, so he's gonna be fun, I'm sure. Now, putting all of the balance changes aside, let's talk about a couple of just quality of life things that are coming to the game. The first is in the shop. When you're just looking at all of the heroes in a broad view, you can now see the cost of them per gold just right on the screen. You don't have to click on the individual heroes like you used to, and it just shows the gold cost straight up. And then finally, what else is happening is on the score screen, in-game and at the end of the game, on the healing section, where you used to see, you know, all the healing that your supports were doing, it now includes a damage taken section for tanks, which is really nice because it was hard to judge whether or not a tank was doing anything, really. But if a tank is taking a lot of damage, then typically they're the ones soaking the damage for your team, and they're probably doing a fairly good job. It's nice to have this little statistic there, especially if you're more comfortable with playing tanks and not necessarily feeling like you're being rewarded for it. With all of that being said, I'm super excited for this patch to come out because it's adding so much new content to the game that I'm just gonna devour. I just love this kind of stuff. I love the new Battleground, I love the new heroes. Just give it to me all at once if you can. I know we'll get heroes spread out, but yeah, you know, at least we're getting a new Battleground and the Butcher, right? Also, all the little quality of life changes just make the game a lot more playable, in my opinion, and it was already playable to begin with, so it's just gonna get better from here. But with that being said, we shall see you guys next time.